Scooby Doo isn't everybody's first pick when they're having a Christmas special marathon. While the show is a better fit for the Halloween season, Scooby and the gang love a good Christmas mystery. And only people with impeccable taste would choose to indulge in some Scooby snacks and Christmas mysteries. There are a lot of Christmas and winter specials in the Scooby Doo franchise. And what better way to spend my time than to watch all of them and then rank all of them worst to best for a video? Okay, I just lied. Not all of them. All of the ones I can find in decent quality. Or find. Some of these episodes are like impossible to find. But we do have a lot to go through, so let's quit yapping and get into it. Night of the Living Toys is the first half of the 7th episode in the new Scooby Doo Mysteries, one of my least favorite series in the franchise. Scooby, Scrappy, Daphne, and Shaggy travel to a toy store to help the owners figure out who is stealing their money from the safe, and maybe even find a hidden treasure that the owner's great-great-grandfather hid a long time ago. The owner says there's a legend that the toy factory was built on an old Elf King's castle, and he thinks the evil Elf King has come back with a vengeance to claim his property. And after a quick encounter with the evil Elf King, Daphne finds a lab report addressed to the sales lady that works for the toy company, who is very fond of Scrappy Doo.
Why, just look at the cute little puppy.
Let it be known she's the only person fond of Scrappy Doo. And with the first clue down, they decide to split up. Daphne and Scrappy are gonna head upstairs to see if they can find this evil Elf King, while Scooby and Shaggy chase some Scooby snacks into the basement. To the upstairs duo's surprise, they actually find the evil elf, and they watch as he steals the rest of the money out of the safe, using some of the toys to help in the heist. And after that, a classic chase scene commences where Scooby and Shaggy get basically tortured by the evil elf, but he is easily captured, and it is revealed that the elf was actually the sales lady that was fond of Scrappy. I knew something was wrong with her. Nobody likes Scrappy. And along the way, they actually do find the treasure that I hinted at before by using the store's motto as a clue.
Treasure your foundation, for its bricks will build your future.
Where it's revealed that the whole building is solid gold. What the hell? How have you not just accidentally noticed that? Like you scraped a brick a little bit and then, whoa, that's a little shiny, you know? Like what? But I'm not gonna lie. This episode is a little rough. I mean, it's only like 12 minutes long, so it doesn't exactly have ample time to flesh out a really good story or anything, but they just throw so much information at you so quickly that I got confused at who was who. And besides the evil Elf King, there is nothing festive about this episode at all. There's no snow, there's no Christmas trees, there's no lights, no nothing. And on top of that, it was pretty obvious who was behind the mask because there was only a few people in this episode. And all the Scooby Doo fans know that the red herring is never the person in the mask. And the owner wouldn't be stealing his own money. That doesn't make sense. So it had to be the sales lady. Just a weak episode overall. You can honestly skip this one or the whole series if I'm being honest. So I did some more deep diving and I found some of the episodes that I couldn't find before that I just wasn't going to talk about. And also there are some episodes that I wasn't going to talk about originally, but I changed my mind. I kind of want to talk about it. So occasionally you'll see me in some different clothes here and there, but now it's time to talk about Scooby's Swiss Miss is the second part of the 8th episode of the Richie Rich / Scooby Doo show. Man, they were just meshing any popular show together back then. It was also the 23rd episode of the Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo show. Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy vacation to the Swiss Alps, and they almost immediately run into this cutie poodle, which Scooby instantly falls in love with. Later, the boys decide to go ice skating where they run into the poodle once again. But Scooby doesn't know that she already has a man. Or a dog. And he's not actually her dog, it's a bulldog who believes he's her man. Or dog. And he's jealous that she likes Scooby-Doo so much, so the bulldog just straight up bullies Scooby-Doo, trapping him under the ice and turning him into a popsicle. And since ice skating didn't go so well, they decide to give up and go skiing instead. But uh-oh, the poodle is back. And her stalker bulldog isn't far behind. He once again ruins Scooby's trip by chunking a snowball at him, forcing him and his friends to go down this dangerous slope that ends off with a cliff. Naturally, Scooby gets stuck in the gorge, but luckily he's able to get out and he finds that the cutie poodle is hiding in a tree from a grizzly bear. The bulldog tries his best to mean mug and scare the bear away, but that doesn't go so well. And in Scooby's clumsiness, he actually sends the bear flying away and saves the poodle, which only makes her fall in love with him more. Then we cut back to the lodge and the poodle is all dressed up and ready to get married to Scooby-Doo. But Scooby gets cold feet. Probably in a literal sense, actually. But he doesn't want to marry her. And that's okay because the bulldog is more than happy to marry her. And that's it. What the hell was that? Like, I know this is a beloved little short and it's really cute, don't get me wrong, but that wasn't what I was expecting at all. Felt more like a Tom and Jerry episode than a Scooby Doo episode. It's like 8 minutes long, it's super short. I'm glad I found it so I could talk about it, but I think it would have been okay if I just left this one out of the video. The Ghost of Bigfoot is the 10th episode of the new Scooby Doo movies, and it stars Golden Age comedians Laurel and Hardy, which no one knows anymore. I had to look up who they were. I had no idea they existed. The gang run into the comedic duo while heading to a popular ski resort called Mackinac Lodge. Coincidentally, they're all headed to the same place, so the gang offers them a ride. When they make it to the lodge, they meet a man named Kaylee Burgess who tells them the tale of the ghost of Bigfoot. Legend has it that a mean mountain man froze to death during a snowstorm a century before. And ever since then, he comes back every big snowstorm and terrorizes the locals and the guests. And a pretty big storm is headed their way right now, so the people are too scared to check into the lodge, and the people that were checked in checked out. Well, the ones who didn't disappear, that is. And the only other people left in this hotel is an old man named Jonathan Crabtree and his caretaker. Later that night, as the gang gets settled in, each member has their own encounter with the ghost of Bigfoot. Even Laurel. Or is this one Hardy? I don't know. One of the comedians has a frightening encounter. They all watch as Bigfoot escapes in the snow, and they note that he isn't leaving any footprints, which means he could actually be a ghost. The next day, the whole group heads up to the mountain to go skiing, where they meet a suspicious character named Hans Etherwise. He's pretty standoffish at first, but he eventually teaches Scooby and Shaggy how to ski, and after a fun day of skiing, the group head back to the lodge to find Mr. Crabtree, the old man, is missing. So they split up, and you'll never guess what happens. A chase scene. But luckily, this chase scene ends with Scooby finding a piece of paper that has numbers scribbled on it. Fred takes a quick look at it and he thinks it could be license plate numbers. So he asks a local police officer who tells him that all those plates belong to stolen cars. Next, the gang head to find these stolen cars when a truck driven by Bigfoot himself carrying another load of stolen cars zooms past them. That was a little easy. They followed the truck into a junkyard and searched the yard for the stolen cars. But most of the cars there don't even have license plates, so they don't know if it's the stolen ones or not. But while investigating, they find a projector that shows Bigfoot running, and it looks exactly like what they saw the night before from the window. So whoever the culprit is used the projector to trick the gang into thinking it was a ghost, which is why it left no footprints. But as they check out the projector, one of the comedians spots Bigfoot in the upstairs window, which spooks the beast and he tries to run away. But luckily they had a snowmobile ready and are able to chase the ghost down. Well, most of the way, at least. But after they chase the Bigfoot into the room where he's hiding all the stolen cars, and then yet another chase scene happens. But luckily this time they managed to trap the Bigfoot just in time for Velma and Daphne to come in with Hans, who is actually a police officer, who was also investigating the stolen car mystery. And they unmask the Bigfoot to reveal it's the old guy, Mr. Crabtree. He dressed as Bigfoot to scare everyone away so that he can steal their cars and sell them in peace. And that's pretty much where it ends. This movie is just fine to me. I know a lot of people really like it, and there's some comedic bits in there that are pretty funny, but it's obviously just to fill time. And there was almost too many comedic bits that it kind of slowed the episode's pacing down really bad. There are also so many chase scenes. Holy moly. Like I cut out like 4 chase scenes. But the mystery itself was actually pretty interesting and the clues were really good. They're something different, not just dynamite or tire tracks. And I also really like the Bigfoot as a monster. He's a little goofy, but he's also kind of chilling in his own way. But overall, I think they could have made this a 22-minute episode instead of a 45-minute TV movie. Cut out like 4 chase scenes, and you got a 22-minute episode there. Service is the first half of the 5th episode of the new Scooby Doo Mysteries. Scooby, Shaggy, Scrappy, and Daphne head to a hotel called the Overview Hotel, a very obvious reference to the Overlook Hotel from The Shining. They were asked to come by the owner, Jack Marston, because he believes the hotel is haunted by the previous owner, Ebenezer Overview. Also, the new owner being named Jack is a reference to The Shining. This is a Shining-based episode, I don't know if you could tell. When they make it inside, Scooby and Shaggy meet a mysterious man who claims to be the owner of the hotel. But when the real owner arrives, they realize that they were just talking to a ghost. And terrified, they both run outside where they literally run into a man named Sheldon Keats, a horror writer writing a novel about the hotel, its ghosts, and its many secret rooms. And the book is called The Secret Room. So Sheldon is an obvious reference to Stephen King. Their names even kind of sound familiar. Stephen King, Sheldon Keats. Close enough. While outside, they run into a woman named Miss Van Loon as she walks her invisible dog. And no, this isn't a Disney World trick. She literally has an invisible dog. It's never explained, and I don't understand why it's in the episode, but hey, she's lived in the hotel for years and knows pretty much every inch of the hotel and the surrounding mountains. And after meeting everyone, the gang starts their investigation. Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy disguise themselves as chefs and they work in the kitchen, as Daphne disguises herself as a maid. And Scooby gets a sandwich delivery for room 7. And when he gets to the room, he is met face to face with the ghost of Ebenezer. The ghost chases him around the hotel for a bit, and Scooby gets away by hiding in room 7, the room he was supposed to deliver the sandwich to, which also happens to be Sheldon's room. All the commotion in the hotel has caused everyone to gather in the hall outside of room 7, where Sheldon offers to set up a seance to get rid of the ghost, and Jack jumps on the opportunity immediately. He finally has a way to get rid of his pesky little ghost. And while the other 3 set up the seance, the gang search the rooms for clues, and they find a secret passage through the mountain and a piece of paper that reads secret on it. But not only did they find a piece of paper that reads secret in a secret room, the secret room is in the author's room. Did you catch all that? So yeah, things aren't looking too good for Sheldon Keats right now. Later, everyone gathers downstairs for the seance, and it actually works. The ghost speaks back to them all. But everyone in the hotel was at the table when it spoke. So it's either a real ghost or there's some trickery going on. Of course, Daphne doesn't believe it, so she investigates some more, and of course she finds a speaker with a recording hiding in the vent right above the table. But Scooby and Shaggy were too spooked by the seance and the hotel, so they decide to try and sleep in the mystery machine for the night. And as they're getting everything back into the car, Scoob gets another visit from the ghost, which spooks him so bad that he accidentally hops on the back of the ghost's snowmobile. How does that happen? Anyways, they ride for a while until they crash into a massive snowbank, and it's revealed that the culprit was Miss Van Loon. She found the tunnel in room 7, and it led her to a nearby Air Force base, where she stole top secret information and sold it to the highest bidder. So basically, she was a spy. Kinda. So this episode is just fine. Once again, it's a super short episode, so it doesn't really have time to flesh out a good story. But at least this episode had interesting characters and an interesting location. It is funny that they just made a short parody episode for The Shining, and it's honestly kind of a good idea. It matches the vibes pretty well. But that's kind of where all the good stuff stops. I mean, I love a good Scooby-Doo ghost story, but like, come on. That's just a guy. And not even a scary one. They've had some of the scariest ghosts ever in this show, and this guy doesn't even break the top 20. I mean, come on, a dude that was just wearing a bedsheet was scarier than him. But yeah, I like the Shining references and the invisible dog, but other than that, it's not a very good episode. Rocky Mountain Yii was the 13th episode of the Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo show. The episode starts with the gang arriving at Pratt's Peak Lodge. You're gonna see a little trend of like lodges and ski resorts, by the way. It's kind of like the only 2 places they go. They meet the owner, Noah Reed, and his housekeeper, Miss Winters. They tell the gang that their lodge is empty because of a ghost of a man named Jeremiah Pratt, a man who died due to an avalanche on the mountain. And now the ghost scares any skiers and threatens any tourists to get off the mountain. Noah, the owner, doesn't believe in the urban legend himself, but Miss Winters believes his ghost is causing the slow winter season. And while talking to them two, the gang also meet the ski instructor named Will Henry, who also doesn't believe in the legend. But later that day, Scoob, Shaggy, and Scrappy have a run-in with the ghost. They rush to tell the others what they saw, and all together they investigate, where the ghost reveals himself and tells them to leave the mountain or else. Normally when threatened, people would leave. But not the mystery gang. They split up to look for more clues. Fred and the girls go check out the ghost's cabin while Shaggy and the dogs go skiing. What? But of course, while they're having fun skiing, they have another run-in with the ghost and escape him by hiding in this cave. And as they explore the cave, the other 3 find Jeremiah's diary. They look through and find a page is missing, but using a special technique, Velma finds out that the missing page is about eagles. Back to Shaggy and the dogs, they follow the cave and discover that it leads all the way back to the cabin that the others are in. Intrigued, Fred and the girls head down to the cave to find more clues, where they find a lot of dynamite in the cave. And then in classic Scooby-Doo fashion, Scooby and Shaggy get chased by the ghost again and again. And along the way, Velma finds out that the skis at the ski resort belong to someone with the initials WHP. And this is big enough of a clue that she might know exactly who it is. So the gang set up a trap to capture the ghost, and it would have worked perfectly if Scrappy wasn't an idiot and decided to just tackle a ghost for no reason. But luckily for them, an avalanche traps the ghost in a pile of snow. Must be a little traumatizing. I'm sure he got PTSD from that. But they reveal that the criminal is the ski instructor, Will Pratt. But he has been hiding his real name this whole time. His real name is Will Henry Pratt, which means Will was a descendant of the ghost of Jeremiah Pratt. And the page about missing eagles was actually talking about a load of gold coins that were called eagles, which were lost when the avalanche killed Jeremiah. So Will was using the ghost of his great-great-grandfather to scare tourists away so that he could find the wagon and take the gold. I think this episode it's pretty good, it's okay. It doesn't really seem to push the envelope in terms of storytelling or plot devices for the show. And I can't count how many times the villain in the show is after some hidden gold, some gem, some money, or they're impersonating a dead family member. That seems to happen a lot in the show as well. But there wasn't an overabundance of chase scenes, and the ghost looks pretty cool. I really like the design of the ghost. It kind of looks like a frozen psycho. I just love like the icy sharp edges on him. I don't know. I think he looks cool. But yeah, it's not a bad episode, but it's nothing special either. If you love the winter episodes, you should definitely check this one out. Cold Scooby Doo is the 19th episode of the first season of the controversial show Be Cool Scooby Doo. And I say controversial because some people absolutely hate the show because of how silly it is and the huge art style change, which I will admit kind of sucks. I'm not a big fan of the art style either, don't get me wrong. And the show also released after Mystery Incorporated. That show was more grounded and had a serious tone to it, so it was a pretty jarring change for the fans to go from something so dark and serious to something Looney Tunes-esque. Yeah, the episode follows the Mystery Gang as they vacation to a lodge in the mountains. Big surprise. So Shaggy can experience snow for the first time. Even though there was an episode with snow already in this season, I guess I'll let it slide this time. And while they're admiring the beautiful snow, they run into a snowboarder named Heidi Ho Swift, who speaks in a secret snowboarder language that Velma has to translate.
You botwalkers better make a toe-side turn before you get cronked by the cuckoo powder bra.
The snowboarder warns the Mystery Gang to leave before the snow monster gets them. And before they can even settle in, Fred, Velma, and Daphne run into a man named Duncan Odell, who tells them that the snow monster isn't real. It's just an urban legend. Sounds a little familiar, huh? But there's no such thing as an urban legend to these guys, so those three decide to investigate. While Scooby and Shaggy try to have a fun day on the slopes, but that quickly gets ruined when the snow monster chases them down until they fly off of a cliff, where they accidentally bump into the others who were tracking the monster down. But sadly, the monster gets the jump on the gang and forces them to sled down the double black mountain trail to escape. Well, almost escape. The monster somehow tracks down Scooby and Shaggy, and before they can get attacked by the snowy beast, they save themselves. Through song. I wish I was joking. They do like a Disney musical song. It's kind of crazy.
We waited years for him to come to save our kingdom bold.
But the gang gather back up and they find a weather research station with a pretty kooky scientist inside. He tells the gang that he accidentally created the snowman, Mr. Roundy, as a friend to talk to while he was alone in this station with his butlers. But one day, Mr. Roundy just disappeared and then turned into the beast that they witnessed earlier. Velma thinks that maybe this is a paranormal mystery and that an ancient mountain spirit occupied Mr. Roundy and is now being the guardian of the mountain, trying to scare away anyone from being up there. But while in the research station, Fred finds a letter to the kooky scientist that says that his station is supposed to be torn down so they can finish the Black Diamond Slope. So maybe he's the one scaring the tourists away so he can keep his station in the mountain. But after a bit more investigating and another chase scene, the gang set up a trap to capture the snowman using Fred as bait, which doesn't go exactly as planned. But luckily, Daphne saves it by throwing a snowball at him, which trips the monstrous snowman, and they are able to tie him up and reveal that it was the snowboarder Heidi Ho Swift the whole time. She hated all the tourists that were messing up her training, so she wanted to scare them so bad that they would never return. Kind of a crazy little crash out, like just start attacking people because they're simply enjoying a ski lodge, a public ski lodge. But I think this episode is a lot of fun. I like all the little running bits they have throughout this episode, like the gang slipping and falling all the time. Velma is just bad at skiing altogether, she can't keep up. And Fred has a danger radar that does not work very well. Seems to only work with Daphne and snowballs. Don't know why. But also, I like the snow monster. I think it looks kind of cool. Sure, it's kind of Flash animation-like, but they did really good for what they had. But that's about where all the good stuff ends for me. I mean, the monster chases them around for a little bit too long sometimes, and there are a ton of other snowmen in this show that are a lot better, so it's got some tough competition. I feel like I've seen this episode before, multiple times. So it's not really original, but the comedy really helps this episode a lot. The Nutcracker Scoob is a 2-part Christmas special from the new Scooby Doo Mysteries. Oh boy, here we go again. Scooby and the gang help an orphanage set up a Christmas pageant that an old Scrooge-like man named Winslow Nickleby and his evil cat Snowball tries to ruin by buying the orphanage so that he can find an emerald and get even more rich. And while he's being evil and trying to do that, the gang get chased around by this honestly pretty creepy ghost monster. The gang catch wind about this emerald situation, and Daphne believes that the emerald that Winslow is looking for might be inside the star that the ghost carries around. So they get the star and capture the ghost. Well, they almost capture the ghost, and it is revealed that the emerald isn't in the star, but it's inside the nutcracker that is on top of the tree where the star is supposed to be. We cut to later, and Winslow ruins the Christmas pageant and the kids' rendition of the Nutcracker Suite. Believing that Fred has the emerald for some reason, Winslow tackles Fred to the ground and begs him to give him the stone. And during all the commotion, Winslow's cat Snowball gets stuck in the rafters and is saved by Tiny Tina. This kind gesture from her kind of changes Winslow's heart a little bit. But they manage to trap and capture the ghost, and it is revealed that the ghost was the maid to the orphanage, Nanette, who wanted the emerald for herself so that she can sell it and get rich. And then the next day, the Scrooge-like guy Winslow is moved by the day before, and he has now become a loving friend to the orphanage, and the orphanage is now rich because they own the famous emerald. This episode's pretty enjoyable, I gotta admit. I had a good time. It's got a very nostalgic vibe to it. Just like every other older Scooby-Doo episode, actually. And it does change things up a little bit from the usual format. It gives us some more time to learn about the side characters, which really helps this episode. But a lot of the side characters were just doing silly little things. Like, I didn't even mention Nanette because she's a maid, and she was just a maid. She was just doing maid things. There was like no hints that she could be remotely evil until the very end. But since you get to learn more about the characters, you really feel for a lot of the characters, especially the owner, Miss Featherwig, and her situation with the orphanage. And also Tiny Tina, who's obviously Tiny Tim. She's adorable. She's just so cute. As for the ghost in the episode, it's actually pretty scary looking. I could see this scaring me as a kid. And for some reason, the ghost in this episode had way better animation than most of the other monsters in this series. But even though the ghost was really cool, there were a few filler scenes in the episode that I really didn't care for. And the chase scenes felt like they dragged on for a little bit too long, you know? But overall, it's not a bad episode. It's got a lot of good vibes, a lot of good Christmassy vibes. And I actually think it's one of the best episodes in this series, which I don't really like a lot. No Job Too Small is the final episode of the Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo Puppy Hour, and it was later repackaged to be the second part of the 13th episode of the 3rd season of the Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo show. The episode starts with Scooby, Shaggy, and Scrappy driving this annoying-ass kid named Wilbur to his uncle's house so that he can receive his inheritance. Along the way, Wilbur tries to scare the three by telling them that the abominable snowman is chasing them down, and when they turn to look, he's not there. He claims that he was just pranking them, but he might be more right than he thinks, because the actual abominable snowman hops on the back of the snowmobile and mean mugs the kid. Wilbur tries to get the other three to help, but he has a boy who cried wolf moment and no one believes him. And luckily the kid is able to shake the beast off, but the beast just retaliates by throwing a boulder at them, which turns into a massive snowball and almost wipes them out. They try to escape the boulder by crashing into this hill. I mean, that's not the best plan ever, but okay. Even though Scooby-Doo tries his best to fend off the boulder by using his incredible lungs, it doesn't go so well. Finally, the other three actually see the monster and deduce that someone is trying to stop Wilbur from getting his inheritance from his uncle. And their suspicions come true when the beast kidnaps Wilbur and leaves behind what looks like sneaker imprints in the snow. They chase after the beast for a while, and after many attempts to stop him, Scooby manages to stop him by making him crash into a tree, which is coincidentally right beside Wilbur's uncle's house. They get him inside just in time for him to get the inheritance, which is apparently this whole house? A dude is just giving a kid this whole house? A big old house? Damn, that's one nice ass uncle. I don't know if I'm gonna be doing that. Sadly for the kid, the snowman found his way inside and tries to kidnap him once again. But the guys are good at their job and they save the kid quickly, and then they do something crazy in the bed here. I don't really want to know what it is. But then they use the bed to trap the beast and reveal that it was Wilbur's cousin, Sherwood. He was trying to make Wilbur late so that he could inherit the house instead of the little kid. And I mean, I'm a little bit on his side. I mean, his method was a little bit messed up, but like, Why should a little kid get a beautiful mansion? I would be a little upset too, but that's where the story ends. Yet another very short story, but out of the short story episodes, this is the best one I've found. I mean, it's pretty action-packed from start to finish, and it actually feels like a mini episode. That's pretty cool. And the villain in the episode is actually kind of scary. I can't lie. He looks like a mixture of like an evil elf and a yeti. I personally think he looks pretty damn cool. I don't like the little kid though. He's just super annoying from start to finish and doesn't get any kind of redemption for himself. But once again, this is such a short episode, I really don't have much to say about it. But out of all of the Scooby Doo and Scrappy Doo episodes I've talked about so far, this one is probably the one I recommend you give a watch. What a Shocking Ghost is the 4th episode of the Scooby Doo and Dynamite Hour, but it was later turned into an episode of the Scooby Doo Show. The gang are headed to Winter Haven for a fun ski vacation, but when they arrive, it's a ghost town. Everything is closed and there are no tourists on site. And unfortunately for the gang, they run out of gas in the town and they have to bunk somewhere for the night. They knock on one of the doors to the cabins and the mayor, Mr. Dudley, answers and tells the gang that he's the last person in town because of a ghost they call the 10,000 volt ghost. He's terrorized the town and left everyone with no power. Hoping that the gang will help them, he tells them the story about the 10,000 volt ghost. He says that a little while back, the town was absolutely thriving until a terrible snowstorm hit and it snapped a power line. An electrician named Voltner climbed the power pole to fix it, but an explosion occurred which blew out all the other transformers and Voltner's body was never found. And soon after his disappearance, the ghost started to appear everywhere. Jeez, that's a little intense for a story there, no? It's like way more intense than normal, like a dude exploded and then disappeared because of the explosion. Bro was turned into mist. Also, 10,000 volt ghost is an awesome name. I think that's one of the coolest names in the series. But once again, the gang have stumbled upon a mystery to solve, and they waste no time in investigating the nearby power plant, where they find that the gate bars have been melted. And after a little slip-up, they run into the owner of the power plant, Mr. Collins, the only other person in town, even though I thought the mayor was the last person in town. But he says that he didn't leave town because he wants to fix the power and help the town, but every time he does fix one of these transformers, the ghost comes back and ruins it. And after talking to him, the gang look around for clues where Shaggy and Scooby decide to grill and munch on some burgers. With the help of the 10,000 volt ghost, maybe he's not so bad after all. Spoke too soon. The two numbnuts run back to the other three, which just leads the ghost to all of them. But luckily, they're able to escape quickly, and they immediately find some sunflower seeds on the floor. Daphne points out that she saw a pet shop on the way in town, so the sunflower seeds might be for some birds in the pet shop. So Velma, Shaggy, and Scooby go to the pet shop while Fred and Daphne head to Voltner's house to find more clues. Inside the pet shop, they find multiple pets, but the parrot leaks to them that there's a rubber suit in the closet that belongs to the ghost, as well as a tunnel underneath the shop that leads straight to the power plant. And while they're doing that, Fred and Daphne find a piece of paper that has a bunch of numbers on it. So they all meet back up at the library and they find records that match the numbers on the paper. They try to look through them, but of course their investigation is spoiled when the ghost appears and attempts to stop them from reading the records. They somehow escape his grasp once again, and this time they set a trap to capture the ghost. They use a lot of wire to turn the ghost into an electromagnet, which would stick him to any piece of large metal. And it works perfectly, and they're able to unmask the ghost and reveal that it was the dead guy Voltner. Well, not so dead guy now. He faked his death to help Mayor Dudley buy a piece of land, which will have a freeway running by it soon, which would make both of them rich. These villains are very money hungry in this show. I'm slowly realizing that as I get older. But with the mystery now solved, the gang help get the power restored to the town and they save the town. I think this is a very simple but really good episode. I really like the backstory of Voltner, even though it was a little dark and it was also all made up. I still think it was awesome. I think it was great. And I think the mystery they put behind his death made it a lot more interesting and fun. I also like how they pretty much just had Electro running around the town, just ruining it. Where the hell is Spider-Man, dude? And also, like I said earlier, the 10,000 volt ghost is such a cool name. It's honestly upsetting that he doesn't look a lot cooler. He looks like a character from home movies. He does look a lot better in the live action James Gunn movie. If only that translated well into this episode, it would have probably been one of the scariest monsters in the show. But yeah, I think this is a really solid episode. It's really interesting, has a really cool mystery, has a really fun monster. I absolutely can't hate it. No Place Like Home is the 7th episode of A Pup Named Scooby Doo. Man, I've been itching to talk about this show for so long. The gang go on a vacation to a place called Snowy Mountain Lodge, which is a little creepier than they expected. But come on, it can't be that bad on the inside. They head inside the lodge and meet up with the owners, Mr. and Miss Morganson, who are really creepy, honestly. But they offer to feed the kids a feast, so I guess they're chill. But while the kids are munching, the doorbell rings and Miss Morganson answers it to find a man named Mr. Peterson there. He wants to buy their property and build a massive mall on top of it. But the Morgansons are not willing to sell their property for any means necessary, especially to a greedy businessman. But Mr. Peterson doesn't worry. He knows they're gonna fold one day because no one wants to buy property with an ice demon on it. Hearing the news about an ice demon kind of scares the kids, but the Morgansons assure the kids that the ice demon doesn't actually exist, which is obviously a lie, because later that night, Shaggy and Scoob discover that the ice demon has somehow found his way into their bed, and they get chased around the lodge as the demon shoots ice at them, and he's only stopped when Velma reflects one of his ice blasts back at him. And the next day, the gang meet a man named Mr. Forrester, another person who is looking to buy the property, but he wants to build a park on the property, not a mega mall. He also reveals to the kids that there's an underground mine nearby, and he gives them a torn map so that they can find and investigate the mine, where they find a secret door that has the other half of the map inside and the ice demon's spare costume. But they can't check it out for too long because the ice demon is there and he wants them gone. He uses his powers to close the mine, trapping them inside, and then he turns them all into a big block of ice. But luckily, Scooby-Doo learned a trick from Tigger and uses his tail to bounce them to a wall, breaking the ice, which triggers another silly chase sequence chocked full of dancing and silly antics, while a pretty banger song plays in the background, I'm not gonna lie.
His touch will turn you blue. Watch out, Shaggy, watch out, Scooby-Doo.
But the chase scene ends when the gang magically find their way outside of the mine, even though the ice demon closed it up just 5 seconds before. We're not gonna talk about it. Where they almost instantly run into Mr. Peterson outside carrying a bunch of surveying equipment. Man, bro is pretty certain that they're gonna sell that property to him. But after talking to Mr. Peterson, Fred thinks he has this case solved. So you know what happens next. The gang stand outside the mine and act like they found a whole bunch of diamonds, which lures the greedy ice demon right to them, where he chases Scooby down right into their trap, where they use heated lamps to melt the demon as he runs and hides inside one of the ranger stations nearby, where it is revealed that Mr. Forrester was actually the ice demon all along. It turns out that the mine is chock full of diamonds and Mr. Forrester wanted to buy the land to put a park there, aka mine all the diamonds in the cave and get uber rich. And thanks to the kids finding all those diamonds, the Morgansons will now have enough money to keep their lodge forever. You just can't hate A Pup Named Scooby Doo. It's such a silly, fun show. And this episode especially is incredibly silly, but really entertaining. It wouldn't be fun if it wasn't. I also love the ice demon, and I really like the design of the ice demon. It looks like something you should be scared of, but he's so goofy that he's not even remotely scary in the slightest. As for the mystery itself, it's just fine. It's very simple. They did do a good job with the red herring. I was like 60% sure it was gonna be the business guy, but I should have known he was a little too obvious, so it wasn't gonna be him. But you know, you don't watch the show for like the top tier mysteries. You mostly watch the show for like the good vibes and all the fun references to previous Scooby-Doo stuff. Like Velma says jinkies for the first time in this episode because of a bug. Isn't that interesting? I didn't know that. And it's definitely a really good winter episode, one of the better winter episodes, and I recommend you give it a watch if you haven't seen it. Scooby on Ice is the 8th episode of the 2nd season of Scooby Doo and Guess Who? And it stars Olympic gold medalist Tara Lipinski, who was on this channel before in the Are You Afraid of the Dark episode, The Tale of the Lunar Locust. Didn't expect to ever talk about her again. We start the episode with the gang going to the Alps, but they don't even make it to their destination before getting attacked by a massive beast, which causes them to crash near a frozen lake. Luckily, Tara Lipinski was nearby and she helps them out. And this is where the gang learned that Daphne and Tara are really good friends. And Tara's even gonna coach her so that she could compete in a figure skating competition called the Ice Games. They all make it back to the lodge where the gang meet the event organizer, Johann Staber. He inherited this event from his grandma, but less and less people are competing and showing up because they're scared of a monster, the same monster that attacked the gang earlier. He barely has anyone to compete, and if he loses anyone else, he might just have to cancel it for the first time ever. But since they're not officially canceled yet, Daphne and the gang hit the ice for a bit of practice. And while they're having fun, they meet Daphne's rival, Harley Shiver. rivers. And luckily for Daphne, she can't compete this year because she has an injury. And not long after they meet Harley, the Yeti wannabe attacks the group once again, where we get a classic chase scene, and I mean a classic one. One of those where the camera doesn't move at all, they just kind of run around the screen for a couple of minutes. But luckily for the gang, Tara Lipinski knows how to handle the overgrown teddy bear and sends it flying into a nearby snowbank. And then they immediately meet an elder from a nearby village. She's a very tiny woman and she doesn't like the ice games at all, but she does warn the gang of
There's Schneetofel!
or you can call it by its easier name, the Snow Devil. Terrified by this warning, Scooby and Shaggy try, and fail, to run away. But in their stupidity, they discover an underground cave. They check the strange cave out where they discover a pair of big skates and a strange whirlpool. But it looks like they found the Snow Devil's hideout, and he's not too happy about it. He tries to chase them down with a boat, but they escape using this lift that's in the center of the whirlpool for some reason. But before they make it out, Velma writes something down on a coin and tosses it into the whirlpool. And somehow Velma believes she already has enough information to solve the case. So now all they have to do is set up a trap at the ice games. They put the skates that they found in the cave in the lost and found, and they bring everyone's attention to it, which almost immediately gains the attention of the Snow Devil who comes to claim them. The idiot monster has no idea it was just the start of a trap and Daphne's ice skating show. The gang lure the monster to a marked location and the trap fails. Of course, they never go right. But luckily for the gang, Tara thinks fast and battles with the Yeti for a while before he gets buried in some ice. Then they unmask the Snow Devil and it turns out to be Johann Steiber, the event coordinator. Johann didn't like that he inherited the event from his grandmother, and he also didn't like that the event wasn't profitable. So he was using the whirlpool to drain the water out from under the lake and sell the water in water bottles to make a lot of money. Velma theorized that something like this was going on, and to confirm her suspicions, she wrote down who she thought it was on a coin and then tossed it into the water. And then she ordered a bunch of bottles of water and found her coin inside of one of them. So Johann goes to jail and the ice games are saved. This episode is actually a lot of fun. It feels like a classic Scooby Doo episode in a good way. It has like a nostalgic feel to it without it feeling like they're trying too hard to feel that way. And I think Tara is a great guest for the show. She was super helpful to the gang and honestly kind of badass. But she didn't like try to steal the show from them at all. Like she had her moments, but they didn't like stop the episode entirely to give her like a separate storyline or anything. Ghost of Bigfoot. She would do this bit where she was practicing her commentating for the ice games by commentating what was going on in the episode. And just like I said, she would do it, but it didn't feel like she was doing it too much to where it was annoying. It was just enough to where it would be funny. And the mystery for this episode is actually really good and really interesting. Probably one of the better mysteries in this whole video. I didn't expect to see a mysterious whirlpool underneath what's supposed to be a lake. And the fact that he was using the lake water to bottle water is also just kind of insane. That can't be like good at all. And finally, let's talk about the Snow Devil himself. I do like the Snow Devil, and he does seem like he would be super intimidating, but the cutesy art style for the show just made him kind of look like a little cute teddy bear. I mean, come on, I can't be scared of that. Overall, this is a surprisingly great episode. I have never really watched this series of Scooby Doo, but I'm glad I found it. Maybe I'll check out some more episodes. Scary Christmas is the 14th episode of Be Cool Scooby Doo. The episode starts with two boys who set milk and cookies out for Santa when they hear something on the roof. Thinking it's Santa, they rush to check it out, but that's not Santa. Next, we catch up with the gang as they visit the town of Rockwellville for Christmas, aka Daphne's birthday. Daphne is tired of her birthday being overshadowed by Christmas, and she wants it to be a day about her for once in her life. But Fred wants to solve a Christmas mystery, so Daphne's birthday is once again going to the wayside for now. And sadly for Fred, they aren't getting a Christmas mystery, but a prehistoric one because they catch wind of the pterodactyl sighting. And by catch wind of the sighting, I mean Velma is seeing it as they speak. The dino targets them and tries to steal the gang and the mystery machine, but luckily for Fred's ingenuity, they escape. Did the car just have wings? They investigate the town for a bit where they find a cave that had the pterodactyl nest inside. The scientist in charge of the egg extraction tells them that the mayor shut him down, so he isn't getting any more money from the town and he is now looking for volunteers to help dig the eggs out. But he's having a hard time finding volunteers, and the only one he has is a guy named David who also happens to be a really good engineer. The gang head back to question the mayor, and they find that he stopped funding the dig because the town focuses all their money on the Christmas tourists. They also put a giant tree in the middle of the town and hang gifts for each person on the tree. But later they go to an orphanage because Fred really wants to solve a Christmas mystery, not a dino mystery. And for some reason he thinks the Christmas mystery will be there. I don't know. And while they're there, they find a trail of bows leading them to their destination. I just used every version of "there" in that sentence. And their destination just so happens to be the saddest thing ever. The mystery machine destroyed, and the pterodactyl. And then he makes it worse by stealing Daphne and Scoob. They're like the important ones. Well, one of them is the important one. After the dino destroys half the town and they get their friends back, they meet the man who is building the star for the big tree. He absolutely hates this town, he hates Christmas, and he wants nothing else but to leave, but he can't do that unless he gets paid money, so he's doing things like building the giant star. And he also tells the gang that there's going to be a ceremony tonight, which would be the perfect time for the dino to attack. So they rush to the tree to save the day, but they're too late. The dino steals the tree with all the presents and almost makes an escape. Luckily, with their flying Mr. Machine and a ton of silly string from Daphne's birthday party, they're able to subdue the dino and save the presents for the town. And on a circle back, they hit the pterodactyl and make it crash into lights, trapping it, where it is revealed that David, the volunteer engineer, was the one behind the dino the whole time. While helping in the excavation, David stole the pterodactyl eggs and was planning on selling it to get really rich. But he had to hide them for a second, so he hid them with the other presents in the tree and lost which one it was. So he decided it would be smart to just steal the whole tree and uncover the egg. But he also had help from the guy who built the star for the tree, because he knew that that guy wanted to leave town, and if he sold the egg, they would have enough money for them both to leave town. And the episode ends with Fred helping the orphan by gifting him the pterodactyl egg, which, believe it or not, is a good thing because the kid can now sell it and save the orphanage. I guess Fred got what he wanted after all. Okay, listen, love or hate this show is hilarious, okay? I don't think I laugh more at any Scooby-Doo show in my life. And this episode is just filled with some of the funniest jokes I've ever heard. Like, for one, the monster isn't a Christmas monster. It's a freaking dinosaur. Like, what the hell? And Fred wanting to so badly solve a Christmas mystery that he spends most of the episode not wanting to investigate the pterodactyl. And only when he found a trail of Christmas bows was he on board. And for some reason, Fred is also obsessed with trying to help this orphanage.
Did you say orphanage? As in orphans? The kind you help?
And at the end, he inadvertently does help it. It's just so funny. I love it. I don't understand why. And as for the mystery in this episode, it's pretty good. I like it. I think it's awesome. This show doesn't really do mysteries as well as some of the other shows because it focuses more on the comedy part of the show. But because they focus so hard on the comedy part, they're not really good at like the red herrings or anything. There really wasn't a red herring. They just randomly threw in the fact that David was a good engineer, which automatically told me that guy made the dino, right? You need an engineer to build it. I've seen the movie. But even if you don't like the mystery or the humor in this episode, the episode is kind of saved by the cool monster because everyone likes dinos. But if you're like me and you like really dumb humor and you can get over the ugly art style, you'll probably like this episode. You'll probably like the whole show, actually. A Scary Night with a Snow Beast Fright is the third episode of the third season of Scooby Doo, Where Are You? It's also the third episode of the third season for the Scooby Doo show. It's crazy to repurpose an episode entirely for a different show, but it's even crazier that they somehow ended up as the exact same episode in the exact same season. Anyways, the gang are visiting the North Pole to visit a small village and see their friend Professor Kruger. When they make it to the village, they find that a lot of the igloos have been destroyed, and their friend Professor Kruger is missing. They look for clues and look for their friend for a little while, where they find these massive footprints that are so large that the thing that made them would have to be almost 50 feet tall. And while exploring, they run into the chief of the village, Chief Manook, and his huskies, one of which Scooby has a crush on. Chief Manook tells them that their professor friend was captured by the snow beast. He says that the beast was angered and destroyed the village because they accidentally built their village on sacred land. And the beast doesn't like it when people tread on his land, so the gang better leave soon or the beast will be coming for them. But they're not gonna do that. There's a mystery afoot! It's a Scooby-Doo video. I have to say that at least once, you know? They go to investigate Professor Kruger's hut, and they find out that his assistant, Jean-Pierre Baptiste, is still there. But he is also quite frightened by the beast, so he leaves almost as quickly as we meet him. They search his hut for some clues, and they find a drawing of some totem poles. The same totem poles that they saw right outside the village earlier in the episode. But soon after they find the clue, they get a visit from the massive beast himself. The beast chases the gang around for a while, but turns his attention to Chief Manook and takes him away away. Traumatized by the kidnapping, they use his dog sled to chase the beast down and save Manook. But on the way, they find the same totem poles that are on the drawings, and they discover that a beating noise is coming from them and some black snow is gathered right beside them. They write this clue down and then they follow the beast's trail and find that it leads to a cave with 2 tunnels. So they split up to find more clues. Fred and the girlies find a massive submarine and some more of the black snow. And they also find a flight of stairs that leads them to the professor and Manook, who have been imprisoned in the cave. And while those 3 are making great progress and working hard to solve the mystery, Scoob and Shaggy are just goofing off with the snow beast. They all gather back together and they now have enough evidence to find out who's behind the giant beast, and they set up a trap to make the beast slip and crash into one of the huge totem poles, which works beautifully, revealing that the beating noise coming from the totem pole was actually an oil rig, and the beast was actually the professor's assistant. What a surprise! The only other person in this episode. Baptiste discovered the oil, but he knew he couldn't drill in it because it was on Inuit land. So he used their fear of the snow beast to scare the people away, and then he used the submarine to smuggle the oil out of the country and get a lot of money. Don't let America know there's oil there. It'll be turned into the North Sea when they're done with it. And the episode ends with Scooby Doo somehow rizzing up his husky crush. Kind of impressive. He failed so badly, but still got her. This is a great episode. One of my favorites from the OG show. It doesn't follow the trend of gang goes skiing, then finds a snowman which attacks them. I'm telling you, that storyline got old quick for me. But I like that they actually went to like a barren location and still somehow found a mystery to solve. That's a little funny. And I do have to say this episode is incredibly silly, which is kind of necessary with a very intense and bleak place like the North Pole. You know what's up there? Snow. There's nothing else. So all the humor in the episode make the episode very entertaining, because if they didn't have it, it probably would have been kind of boring, honestly. I especially love that Scooby found himself a girlfriend. That was really cute. And the Snow Beast himself has to be one of the most unique monsters in the show. I mean, it's a 50-foot woolly dinosaur with almost human-like hands. That's pretty insane. It's also a little weird that there was 2 dinosaur episodes in the Christmas special I'm making. I just noticed that. But yeah, I really like the monster. I think it's like a highlight for the episode for me. I think he looks so cool. I love how interesting he is. I do hate that the episode only had 3 side characters, and they found 2 in a cave, so it was insanely obvious who the culprit was. But other than that, I think the episode is awesome. I absolutely love it. That's why it's so high ranked right now. Uncle Scoob and Antarctica is the 12th episode of the 2nd season of What's New Scooby Doo. The gang are visiting Shaggy and Scooby as they volunteer at a local zoo, where Scooby has made a pretty good friend in a little penguin named Little Pete. They learn from the head zookeeper that Little Pete is going back to his natural habitat in Antarctica, and he offers that the gang take Little Pete to Antarctica because he's very fond of Scooby Doo. So they all hop on a plane and head down to Antarctica, and they arrive at the Cape Dartway station, where they find that it is deserted and has no power. Inside, they find an assistant to the head scientist Armand Zola. His name is Monroe Hopper, and he tells the gang about a terrifying fish creature attack that ended up with the head scientist being abducted. And as they talk to him, the power turns back on with the help from a sergeant named Linda, who actually doesn't like being in Antarctica and she really wants to leave. Curious about this fish monster, they investigate the ice field nearby and find that there are no penguins left because they built a giant research station where the penguins lived, which displaced all of the penguin population, which really stresses Little Pete out. So they stop to let Little Pete cool off, and they're confronted with the fish monster, who grabs Shaggy and tries to steal him, but luckily Fred saves Shaggy. But then the monster just takes Fred instead. And he almost gets away with him, but Daphne uses a nail file to separate the two, and with a little help from Petey, they defeat the fish monster. And right after that, the gang find Dr. Zola frozen underneath the ice, and they bring him back to the station to be defrosted. If he isn't dead yet. But while they're waiting on him to defrost, the power goes out once again, which makes it impossible for them to defrost him. So the gang head outside to see what's going on, and they see the fish monster diving into the water once again. While trying to come up with a plan to lure the monster out, the monster gets the jump on them. But thankfully, Fred reacts fast and kicks the ugly guy out of the way. But on his way out, the monster does get a hand on Scooby Doo and drags him into the frozen water. No one is able to grab Scoob quick enough to save him, and the water is too cold, so if any of them go inside of it, they will just freeze to death. but there is a new little friend that could help. Little Pete jumps in the water with no hesitation. Petey bravely saves Scoob and pushes him to the surface, and right as he gets to the top of the water, the monster yanks Little Pete away. And then Scoob jumps back in the water to save him. Luckily, they're able to make it out of the water without the monster grabbing him, where Velma finds an air hose stuck to Scooby Doo. Back at the station, the power is now back on, and their pilot Cloyd and Linda want to get out of Antarctica ASAP. But the gang agreed that they can't leave until they've solved this mystery. So they set up a trap using Scooby and Shaggy as literal bait to get the monster to make an appearance. Sadly, the trap only attracts a seal, which Scooby makes fast friends with, but the fish monster isn't far behind. And after a really quick chase scene, they trap the monster in a cage and unmask it to find out it was Monroe Hopper, the assistant to Dr. Zola. It turns out that the doctor wanted to be frozen in the ice, and he wanted to wake up in the next century so he could share his vast knowledge with the future. And he convinced Hopper to dress as the fish monster to scare everyone else away and to finish their operation. And as Monroe is telling them this, Dr. Zola wakes up and he is disappointed that he didn't even last 3 days in the ice. But he does realize that his plan wasn't the best, and he decides to focus on cloning himself instead of freezing himself. And the episode ends with the mystery gang returning Little Pete to his new family of penguins. This episode is really cool. I love when episodes are in remote locations like Antarctica or the North Pole. It just makes it feel like the gang can't escape the mystery even if they really want to. And out of all the mysteries in this video, this is definitely one of the more strange ones. They really don't get much evidence throughout the episode, just an air tube to prove that it's not an actual monster but a human dressed as one. So the only way to really know who it was to trap the monster. And I mainly wanted to talk about this episode because of the fish monster. I think he looks insanely cool, and he is a pretty big threat to the gang. Unlike most of the monsters on this list, this guy tries his best to take the gang out. I mean, everyone but the girls got grabbed at least once. And he almost outright just kills Scooby Doo, which is absolutely insane. So yeah, this is one of the more intense monsters and one of the more intense episodes in the list. And it's honestly a nice change of pace from all the other episodes. And it also has an adorable penguin side character. I mean, how could you hate this episode? The Wrath of Krampus is the 13th episode of the second season of Mystery Incorporated. Mystery Inc. has a connected story throughout the show, and this episode is very lore heavy for the show. So I'll try my best to just talk about the episodic story and not the overall story. But some characters from previous episodes do make an appearance, so if you're interested, just go watch Mystery Inc. It's awesome. It starts with this hooligan boy who's playing music way too loud and making it everybody's issue.
Eat the jam! Eat 'em! Eat all my loud jam!
If you're gonna have a boombox and play music loud, at least be cool about it, man. He was a little too rude to this elderly lady, and as punishment, Krampus horrifyingly turns him into an elderly person. No lie. I thought Krampus killed him for half a second. I was like, oh my god. Oh, okay. The gang catch wind about this Krampus monster, and they start their investigation at an arcade where reoccurring character Chef Bronson and 3 other girls who were being mean and pushing people around get a visit from Krampus. And they all get the same treatment as the rude boy at the beginning. After seeing what Krampus does to his victims, the gang know they have to stop him. So they head back to their headquarters to research Krampus, and as they do that, they notice that the classic villain, Charlie the Haunted Robot, is missing. After they're done researching Krampus, they find that he only hurts bad kids. So Fred thinks up a plan that involves him talking to the baddest kid in town, Mary Ann Glierdon, a girl who appeared in an earlier episode, The Song of Mystery, as Fred's tutor. Mary is now in prison for her crimes, but she agrees to help the gang to lower her prison sentence. But just like clockwork, Krampus appears and uses his powers on Mary before taking her away to this really creepy doll factory. But after a lot of chasing and running around, they eventually capture Krampus and reveal that it was Charlie the Haunted Robot? Listen, I know you're confused. How did an old robot become sentient and then dress himself like a goat to terrorize the town? In reality, this whole episode was a ruse to get the antagonist of the whole show to try and steal half of this device that's really important to the show. But the gang set this whole fake mystery up as a distraction so that the mystery gang could steal the other half from them instead. It's an absolutely insane twist to the show, and I would love to tell you more, but there's like 26 episodes of lore I'd have to go through. Just watch Mystery Incorporated. It's incredible. It's the best Scooby Doo show by far. There, I said it. It's better than A Pup Named Scooby Doo. I know a lot of people love that show for some reason. Okay, this episode actually really rocks. I love it so much. I mean, the mystery around the episode is really amazing, and it's actually pretty intense. Like, someone is going around town turning kids into old people for being bad. That's kind of psychotic. And knowing that it was the mystery gang is even crazier to me. The twist for the episode is actually insane. Like, what do you mean the gang were the ones behind the mystery this time? You're supposed to be solving it. How are they so good at hiding it? You're telling me that Shaggy and Scoob are this good at acting? I don't think I believe that. I don't think I believe it. And the Krampus monster himself is probably one of the scariest Scooby-Doo monsters I've ever seen. Like, he is literally horrifying. He has a crazy amount of strength and his agility is absolutely insane. He's like leaping from building to building like Batman. I was wondering how in the world were they going to stop him? Because at the beginning, it was looking a little impossible. But of course, there are a few downsides to this episode. Like, for one, it's not actually a Christmas episode. Besides Krampus, there is really nothing. There's no Christmas trees, no festivities. Velma even points out that Krampus is around at the wrong time of year.
It says here he usually only appears during the winter months. So this is a bit of an off-season appearance.
But even though it's not a Christmas special, I still think it's really awesome and you should definitely give it a watch if you haven't. And like I've been saying, watch all of Mystery Inc. It's really, really good, I promise. Scooby Doo Haunted Holidays is a 2012 Christmas special that I actually did a cameo review for my friend Matt Neff. Go check out his holiday special video as well. After this one. You have to stay. The episode follows the gang as they attempt to help a failing toy factory get some funding by doing a Christmas parade for them. Sadly, the parade gets ruined by a massive, terrifying snowman. The gang feel terrible and they want to help the store owner figure out this mystery, but I don't think he wants their help.
Get out! Get out! Doomed! Doomed, I say! Get out!
We learned from the owner's nephew Fabian that the toy factory was cursed by a bitter old man who retired. Then the owner decided to build a giant toy factory with a huge glockenspiel that plays Christmas music 24/7. The constant music made the old man go so insane that he turned into the beast they call the Sinister Snowman. And then he immediately destroyed the toy factory's clock and glockenspiel. The gang decide to investigate the old man's abandoned house and they find some interesting things.
Hold the phone! Rockets! I love rockets! Can I keep him, Daphne? Can I?
And after a quick run-in with the Sinister Snowman, the gang set up a trap for the snowman. They're gonna lure the snowman into the basement of the toy factory and use the boiler room to melt the snowman, but the snowman is just a step ahead of them, and he freezes Fred, Daphne, and Velma, leaving it up to Scooby and Shaggy. That's not gonna go so well. Luckily, they get the help from the mall Santa, and together they fix the broken clock and glockenspiel, and they defeat the snowman to reveal that it was the nephew Fabian the whole time. He wanted the toy factory to fail so that he could take over and then sell the factory to get rich. And the episode ends where it is revealed that the Santa that helped them wasn't the mall Santa, but Santa Claus himself. I actually really enjoyed this episode. I had to watch it a few times because I reviewed it for another YouTuber's channel. I thought it was just okay at first, but it's kind of starting to grow on me over time, honestly. Especially after watching all the other winter episodes, I realized how good this one was. It's just really fun. It's also different from a typical Scooby Doo episode, while also keeping the tropes that we love so much inside of it.
My glasses! I can't see anything without my glasses.
And the snowman monster isn't original in the slightest, but this one is definitely the scariest one of them all. He is a legit threat to the gang and freezes them multiple times. He can also shapeshift into really anything. He loves this creepy spider form, but he also briefly turns into that thing from Dune. And the episode overall has a little spookier vibe to it, more so than a normal Scooby-Doo episode, that is. It still has its lighthearted and fun moments, but when they're inside that abandoned house, the vibes completely shift, and it is awesome. I highly recommend you check this episode out if you haven't. A Scooby Doo Christmas is the 10th episode of What's New Scooby Doo. This is my favorite Scooby Doo series for nostalgia reasons. I watched it growing up, but I'll try to be as unbiased as I can as I watch it. The gang stop at a town called Winter Hollow on their way to another town. But while they're there, they quickly discover that Winter Hollow is a town that doesn't celebrate Christmas. Multiple townspeople say that they don't celebrate Christmas because of a monster they call the Headless Snowman that destroys people's houses and ruins Christmas for everyone. And after the gang encounter what kind of destruction the snowman can cause to the house and how sad it makes the kids of the town, they decide to try their best to save Christmas for the small town. The gang talk to a professor about the history of the town, and he seems to believe that the Headless Snowman is actually the ghost of a hooligan named Black Jack Brody, who was buried and died inside of a snowman. Jesus, what's up with these Christmas episodes and being incredibly dark sometimes? What the hell is that? And after some investigating, and running for their lives, and just generally messing with the snowman, the gang believe the monster could be one of three people. One local who hates tourists, the hotel owner who gets a huge boost from families who are scared to stay in their house, so they book a hotel room for Christmas, and the sheriff who seems to be at all of the places the snowman attacks. Wait, yeah, she's a sheriff. That's what she's supposed to do. I'm just saying, if I were a cop and there was a monstrous snowman wrecking my town, I'd be on high alert for a little while. And you know what happens next. The gang set up a trap and use electric heaters to melt the snowman to find that the person behind it is...
Nobody?
Just kidding, it's the professor. He was using the snowman to try and find the hidden gold bricks in the chimneys of the buildings, but he didn't notice that the bricks were gold. Hold on, this is starting to sound really familiar. Well, at least the professor is kind enough to give the gold to the townspeople, so everyone is wealthy. Hold on, he's carrying like 10 gold bricks. How strong is he? That's like over 200 pounds of gold. He's just waving around like it's nothing. But thanks to his kindness, people will have the Christmas spirit again. And we end the episode with a very Scooby Doo ending.
Scooby Doo Doo, Doo Doo.
I, of course, really like this episode. I feel like there are actual stakes in this episode. The gang aren't just solving the mystery for themselves, but they're solving it for the whole town. The town has lost all Christmas spirit, they're losing their houses, and not only that, they are all genuinely terrified of a 10-foot tall chimney-ripping snowman. I don't see why the professor guy couldn't have just like let the town in on all the gold stuff that he secretly knew about, rather than making a fake snowman to rip their houses apart. I feel like that's not very productive. All for him to just give them the gold anyways. That's like really not productive. I know the Scooby Doo show has like 4 or 5 snowman monsters, and out of those, this is one of the more lame ones. He doesn't really do anything too interesting, but his hulking stature, sharp teeth, and weird chicken legs make him quite the opponent for the gang. I do wish he did more than just chase them around, you know. Some of the other ones can like freeze them and do some cool things. But other than that, I think this is a very solid episode that is both very spooky, but also very sweet. There's No Creature Like Snow Creature is the first episode of What's New Scooby-Doo. I can't believe I forgot to put this in the original script. I feel like I had it written down, but I accidentally deleted it, because there was no way I forgot about this one. This episode starts with the gang doing something new and original. They're going to a ski lodge to watch a snowboarding competition. See, it's different. They're watching something, not doing it themselves. Along the way, they almost kill Bruce Wilkinson, the creator of the competition. That would have been very bad. And right after that happens, Fred meets a woman named Gretchen Mueller, a famous snowboarder who's won tons of awards in Europe, and now she's here to take over the US. But after they're done talking to Gretchen, the gang overhear that the Olympic bronze medalist Chris Klug has been injured under mysterious circumstances and won't be competing in the competition anymore. So they go and find Chris and talk to him, where he tells them that he was attacked by a snow monster. As they talk, they're joined by a guy named Avalanche. I can't tell if that's his real name or not. Anyways, Avalanche believes Chris's story, and he feels bad that he won't be able to compete in the competition. And after a while of talking to Chris and getting some background information, the gang bundle up and start their investigation, where they almost instantly spot an ominous man walking to the top of an abandoned ski jump. They follow the creepy guy, but their investigation is interrupted by the snow creature. They try their best to run away, but Velma's bundled up too much and has trouble escaping. And Fred, being the hero that he is, distracts the monster from Velma and ends up taking a pretty bad fall, hurting his leg. Then a mysterious man comes to help Fred. We learn that the man is named Theodore, and he's actually the trail manager for the lodge and not the guy they saw earlier. He's still not the nicest guy to talk to, but he does help Fred and the gang get back to the lodge, where they confirm that Fred broke his leg and he'll be out of commission for the rest of the episode. And it seems like Velma is getting a bit sick herself. She pushes through though, and they go investigate Theodore's cabin, where they learn that he was once a champion ski jumper, but he stopped competing when he accidentally collided with a snowboarder and hurt himself. And you should know the drill by now. They get interrupted by the snow creature, who hurt another snowboarder, Avalanche. And since the monster seems to be targeting snowboarders, the gang convinced Bruce to let Shaggy act as a decoy to get the attention of the snow monster, which actually works. Shaggy gets targeted and chased by the creature, but luckily his old pal Scooby comes to rescue him, and they escape the beast's clutches together. I think that's the most courageous I've ever seen Scooby Doo. He kind of just jumped in there. Back at the lodge, Velma's sickness has finally gotten to her, and she also has to stop investigating to get some rest. And while in that room, Daphne and Fred spot the mysterious figure again, and since Fred can't go outside, Daphne is going to have to do this alone. She goes to the abandoned ski jump and finds this mysterious device, but almost instantly gets attacked by the creature. But the creature is no match for Danger Daphne and her blow dryer, so she easily escapes. After some thought, the gang think they know who the culprit is, so they set up a trap using Scooby and Shaggy as bait, once again. After the creature targets the two, their original trap doesn't work, so they lure it up to the dangerous ski jump and jump down, and upon impact, the creature gets stuck in the snow. And then Velma turns it off. Because they found a strange device, Velma deduced that the monster is probably being controlled remotely. They also discover that he was made completely from a mineral that looks like ice and is completely transparent, which is why Daphne's blow dryer couldn't melt it earlier. While checking out the robot, they spot the mysterious guy on top of the ski jump once again. And with a mighty sneeze from Velma, an avalanche takes down the guy, and it turns out to be Avalanche Anderson. Avalanche was taken out by an avalanche. Ironic. He was a stunt guy for a bunch of movies, so he had access to this special tech that would let him control the creature. And he needed the widest range to control the beast, so he hit the remote on top of the ski jump. He did all this because he wanted to be famous again, after being overshadowed by much better snowboarders. And the episode ends with the competition going on and someone special won, and everyone lived happily ever after. Until the next episode. So, of course, I love this episode. I've seen it like a bajillion times. I feel like this was on TV more than the Christmas episode in December. I love how they took a couple of members out for this episode to make the mystery seem more intense. Like they were really getting beat up in this episode. But even though the creature was somehow taking them out, he really didn't do much. I wish the snow monster did more in the episode. I mean, he's this huge ice monster, but he just runs around and looks scary every once in a while. He does cause Fred to break his leg, but that's only because Fred fell down while running away from him. He didn't like push him down or throw him down or anything. He's still definitely one of the coolest looking monsters in the video, but kinda lame in the actual episode. The mystery itself was actually a lot of fun. They had a lot of little hurdles they had to overcome that really make this such a great episode. And I'm so glad I finally got to talk about it, even if it was briefly. And you guys should 100% watch this episode of Scooby Doo if you do a Scooby Doo binge. Okay, don't hate me for this one. It's good, I promise. Just give this episode a chance. Scroogey Doo is the 10th episode of the last season of Be Cool Scooby Doo. It's another version of Scooby Doo and the Christmas Carol, which has been done before, but this one focuses mostly on Velma. You'll see what I mean here in a second. The story begins in 1843. Jesus, how old is the Mystery Gang? They visit London so Velma can be a guest speaker at a Science and Reason symposium. But first, they have to exchange their money for some British currency. So they go to Ebenezer Scrooge's store, where they meet Bob Cratchit and his multiple kids.
Well, there's Tiny Tim, he's my youngest, Massive Tim, Fairly Large Tim, the twins, Medium Tim and also Medium Tim, and Greg.
Upstairs, they get to meet the man himself, who is hiding in a giant pile of gold coins from the ghost that he saw the night before. And him simply mentioning a ghost sparks intrigue for the gang to start an investigation. So they head back downstairs and meet up with Scrooge's maid, Mrs. Blackwhite, and his doctor, Dr. Bugley. They give them some more backstory about Scrooge, and then they start their search for clues, where they run into the Ghost of Christmas Past, who targets and speaks to Velma directly. The ghost shows Velma a scene from her childhood. Little Velma is very into her studies, and the ghost tells her that she would have changed the world if she didn't choose to give up on her innovations to solve mysteries with these losers. If she would have just stuck to her studies, she would have done great things, but now she has ruined her destiny. Then she gets sucked back to the present, and she discovers that the ghost is also haunting Ebenezer Scrooge. During a little more investigation, they find out that Bob Cratchit asked Scrooge for some extra money so that he can treat his son, Tiny Tim. But in classic Scrooge fashion, he refused to give him any money. And while they investigate a little more, Velma questions if she is really supposed to be solving mysteries. She questions if she is really wasting her potential, and asks Fred the same questions. But Fred doesn't take her seriously, and he gives her dumb answers, which angers Velma so bad that she storms out, where she runs into the Ghost of Christmas Present. He teleports her to the symposium where she's supposed to be speaking right now, but because of her friends wanting to solve a mystery, she's missing the opportunity of a lifetime. And while she's just missing, her friends are decorating Scrooge's house for some reason. And while she's not there, Daphne reveals that Scrooge kind of ripped them off by giving them fake currency called Gub-Mahab, which Velma immediately notices is a clue to help solve the mystery. But no one else seems to catch it. Because of this blunder, the Ghost of Christmas Present tells Velma that the Mystery Gang needs her more than she needs them. Then she's jolted awake downstairs back at Scrooge's place. Then the crew are chased around by the ghost for a little while until Velma is visited by the final ghost, the Ghost of Christmas Yet to Come, who shows her the future. Now her friends are all elderly.
I'm 455 dog years old.
Despite their age, they still manage to capture the monster and unmask it to find a bitter old Velma who was angry at the gang for wasting her potential by making her solve silly mysteries. Velma is horrified at who she becomes and begs the ghost to stop her suffering and says that she will change her ways if he just makes it stop. But instead, she's thrown in a grave where she wakes up in Scrooge's house once again, where she completely ignores all the ghosts and helps her friends capture the ghost, and they unmask him to find it was Scrooge's doctor, Dr. Bugley, the whole time. Dr. Bugley was just using Scrooge and squeezing him of all of his money by diagnosing him with different illnesses that he didn't have. But he discovered Bob's note and thought that if Scrooge was kinder, he would pay for other people's medical bills and then he would be even richer, maybe even more rich than Scrooge. So he used the Gub Mahab coin to hypnotize Scrooge and showed him scenes of his life to teach him a life lesson. And he also did the same thing to Velma because she was the only one smart enough to see through his plan. And the episode ends with Velma speaking at the symposium about how she solved the mystery, and because of her, Scrooge will forever be a horrible, greedy guy. Please don't hate me for putting this so high on the list. I think this is one of the best episodes in the whole series of Be Cool Scooby Doo. It's genuinely pretty good, and it's different from the typical Scooby Doo format. I mean, it still has a mystery solving storyline, but it's just a funny retelling of A Christmas Carol. It's also really nice to have a Velma focused episode that's not, you know. But the episode is actually so genius. Having Velma, the smartest one in the gang, question if she's wasting her potential by solving these mysteries with these hooligans is like really smart. You should really attack the smartest one in the room, apparently. And I also love that they inadvertently made Scrooge forever evil because they just wanted to solve a mystery. It's really funny. It's hilarious. This show is hilarious, by the way. I don't know if I said it like 4 times in this video. But sadly, I do think the ghosts look pretty lame in this episode. I mean, most of that is because of the art style for the show. Most of the monsters don't look very intimidating, but I've really noticed that the show really isn't that bad. It's just kind of ugly and the jokes kind of flop sometimes, but for the most part, it's all right. I think it's a little overhated. That Snow Ghost is the 17th and final episode of the first season in Scooby Doo. Where are you? The gang make their way to a ski lodge near the US-Canada border. They check in where they meet the creepy lodge owner named Mr. Greenway and his equally creepy guest, Mr. Leech. Mr. Greenway warns the gang to lock their windows and doors or the elusive Snow Ghost will get them. And not long after they get situated in their room, they do get a visit from the hulking beast. But instead of it just scaring them away, they get the itch to solve the mystery. So they follow the Snow Ghost's track until they spot him across this ravine, and they watch in awe as the ghost leaps over them and escapes through the woods. The gang finds more tracks to follow, which leads them to a cave that has an old man named Fu Lanchi living inside. Fu believes the Snow Ghost is actually the ghost of a Yeti who is chasing him down. He tells the group that he encountered the Yeti in Asia, and while running from it, he jumped across a chasm, and the Yeti followed him but failed and then fell to its death. The gang leave the cave with his story in mind and find yet another trail where Velma finds sawdust in the tracks, which leads them to a nearby sawmill. And when inside, the gang split up to look for more clues, which gives the Snow Ghost a chance to kidnap both Shaggy and Velma. Luckily, Scooby is able to follow Velma's cries for help and eventually finds her chained to a log. Luckily for Velma, Scooby-Doo saved her from the saw trap she was stuck to, and they somehow managed to escape from the Snow Ghost's clutches, where they meet up with Fred and Daphne, and the ghost of Shaggy approaches the gang. And then he gets his foot stuck in a bucket and falls into water, washing away all the paint that was covering his body and waking him up from a trance he was stuck in. They investigate the sawmill for a little bit longer and they find that most of the logs are empty and filled with jewelry. But now they finally have enough clues that they think they know who the ghost is, and they attempt to trap the Snow Ghost, but it doesn't work. Of course. And the ghost tries to kill Scooby-Doo, not even joking, but Scooby-Doo has a tight grip and won't let go, which distracts the monster long enough for Shaggy to pelt him with a snowball, sending him spiraling down the mountain, trapping him in a giant pile of snow. And they unmask the monster to reveal that it was the hotel owner, Mr. Greenway, and the guest, Mr. Leech. They were working together as a part of a jewel stealing ring. This episode is an absolute classic for the show. The Snow Ghost is one of the most iconic characters in the show. I believe this was the first time a Yeti-like monster appeared in the show, but I could be wrong. But yeah, of course, this episode is really good. It's a classic. They do make the surprise twist kind of obvious. I mean, these guys look like they're just itching to cause some mischief, but you just can't hate this episode. It still holds up pretty well even to this day, even if some of the animations do look a little goofy. And the Snow Ghost himself is actually kind of spooky. He was one of the monsters that was more intimidating to me when I was a kid, and I'm not really sure why. Now I kind of just want to hug him. He looks like a comfy guy. But he was pretty spooky to me, even if he did look a little goofy flying around like that. And finally, we end off the video with Chill Out Scooby Doo. Chill Out Scooby Doo was a direct-to-DVD movie that released in 2007, and since this is a movie, the breakdown's gonna be a little bit longer, but I have to get all the important beats in, so. The movie starts with a professor and a Sherpa named Pimba. They find these totem poles that indicate that they are really close to the lost kingdom of Shangri-La. The professor is super excited to trek on, but Pimba doesn't let him through. He says the lands are forbidden, but the professor doesn't care if it's forbidden, so he cuts the line that holds them together and heads in alone, which seems to anger a gigantic, abominable snowman. Then we cut to Fred, Daphne, and Velma, who are vacationing in Paris. The whole gang is supposed to be there, but Shaggy and Scooby decided to take a private jet. A very cheap private jet. But at least they get to eat as much food as they want on this one. But sadly for the guys, it looks like they've been duped because the plane is actually taking them to the Himalayan mountains. And the flight attendant tricks the guys into going to this crate, which drops them down into the snowy mountains. But luckily for Scooby and Shaggy, they have great friends who are kind of worried about them, so they won't be stuck on this mountain for long. And after they fantastically fall down the mountain, Scooby and Shaggy find their way to a temple village in the mountains, where they meet the professor and Pimba's sister Minga, and the sleazy French tour guide that dropped them out of the plane. Turns out their French tour guide is actually a hunter, and he wants to try and capture the Yeti using Scooby and Shaggy as bait. While talking to the group, Scooby and Shaggy ask for a phone to call their friends, but since they're so high in the mountains, there aren't very many phones. Just one in a weather station a bit higher in the mountain that also doubles as a radio station, and Minga has a little crush on the radio host. So the group pack everything up and trek up the mountain, where they get stopped because of a pretty harsh snowstorm. But the snowstorm is perfect cover for a pretty silly Yeti attack that got both Pimba and Alphonse, the French hunter, stuck in traps. While running away from the Yeti, Scoob and Shaggy still somehow find their way to the weather station, where they discover that the radio host slash weatherman is an old friend, Del Chillman, who was actually in the movie Scooby Doo and the Loch Ness Monster. Del is pretty excited to see two people that he actually knows, and he lets the two chill out at the station and control the music while he's gone to look for everyone else who was left behind. And while they do that, Fred, Daphne, and Velma arrive at the temple, but now since they're so high in the mountain, they're kind of left in the dark because Fred's GPS doesn't have signal. They do find a trail of shallow footprints that lead them to Pimba, and they discover that the professor left sometime before the monster attacked in the night. And Minga has seemed to just completely disappear, only leaving her radio behind, causing the group to believe that she was taken by the abominable snowman. But while theorizing, they overhear Scooby and Shaggy getting attacked by the Yeti on Minga's radio. So they decide to split up, and two of them will go help the dimwits while the other two go to the Yeti's cave to look for Minga. And right before Velma and Fred make it to the weather station, Shaggy and Scoob use a weather balloon to escape the ferocious beast. And with the help from Del Chillman, they search through the wreckage of the weather station and find that someone has stolen a few of their helium tanks for the weather balloons. They also see that something is happening deep within the mountain based off this seismic graph. So they quickly rappel down to investigate what it is. And when we catch up with Daphne and Pimba, they find the helium tanks empty inside of the Yeti's cave, proving that it's not actually a monster, just someone dressed up as one and using the helium to blow it up like a balloon. Big shocker, right? But while they do all that, Scooby and Shaggy accidentally find the mystical Shangri-La. I can't tell if these guys are extremely lucky or extremely unlucky in this situation. But they walk around and explore to find a hall full of mountain gods, but this one looks a little too real. Maybe because he is real. Using their unlucky luck, the two escape using a minecart elevator that crashes to the bottom, where they run into Fred, Velma, and Del. See what I mean? Unlucky luck. And after some crazy rumbles in the cave, they notice that the tunnels are collapsing on themselves. And Daphne and Pimba also just magically appear in the same cave. So they all together make it out safely through a crystal cavern, where they find the professor using dynamite to steal ginormous crystals, which is what's causing the cave-in. Thinking that the professor is the one in the Yeti costume, they trap him to find out he actually isn't. Then a really awesome chase slash running away scene using the underground minecarts happens, which ends with everyone busting out of the cave. Some a bit more explosive than others. Which ends with the professor being trapped in rope and the Yeti saving Del and Velma from an avalanche that he caused. And then it is revealed that the Yeti was actually Minga, his sister, all along. She built an impressive mech-like suit to control the monster and used the helium to make it lighter so that it could climb and jump really easily. And she did it to keep Del Chillman as their weather slash radio host because he's a cryptozoologist and he wanted to find evidence of the Yeti. But since he wasn't having any luck finding it, he planned on leaving soon. So she figured if she became the Yeti and was hunting him down, then he would stay stay for a little bit longer. Kind of a sweet reason to be a monster this time. But as for the professor, he was illegally trying to steal precious stones from a cave, so he goes straight to jail. And even though Mingo wasn't the actual Yeti, that doesn't mean he doesn't actually exist, because the hunter Alphonse was saved by a mysterious being who carried him all the way back to the temple as he was passed out. And the movie ends with everyone vacationing in Paris like they were supposed to be doing this whole time. Well, everyone but Freddy.
Guys, I think I got on the wrong plane.
I think this is one of the best Scooby-Doo movies there is. Of course, there are better ones, but this one is definitely in like my top 5. Maybe it is like number 3. It's just such a fun and great idea. Of course, the Mystery Gang are gonna run into a Yeti at some point. I mean, they already did. But it was like actually in the Himalayas, not some swamp or random ski lodge in Colorado or something. They were going like in the mountain that the Yeti legend started in. That's like really cool. But yeah, I just think they knocked this movie out of the park. It's super entertaining. The atmosphere is great. The jokes are a bit corny and dated, but they're still pretty funny. And the mystery itself is really, really interesting. One of the best ones. And the side characters in this movie, they're all really fun and likable. Even the bad guys are likable in this movie. Hell, even the old creepy monk makes me laugh from time to time. I do like how they make the Yeti both terrifying, but also just like a little guy. They like really balance the spooky side of him and the funny side of him very well. There are moments where he can be really threatening. He like is looming over them, super terrifying. But then Scooby and Shaggy will throw a fishing rod in his hand and then he'll catch a tiny goldfish, which yanks him into a hole. I just think it's so much fun and it's definitely worth watching this time of year. And if you say, this isn't even a Christmas movie, how can it be ranked this high? Well, checkmate, bozo. Yeah, what do you have to say to that? The movie also has a bunch of really fun references to other episodes and movies, so that makes it a lot of fun to just sit here and rewatch. And it's also a nostalgic feel-good movie for me at this point, so I'm so happy I finally get to talk about it a little bit. And that's all the episodes I have for you today. Thank you for watching this video all the way through. I know it's a really long video, so I really appreciate you sticking around. And let me know any other Scooby-Doo compilation things you want to see me talk about. I know that I'm missing a lot of winter-based episodes. I think there's like 9 more I could talk about, but some of them I legit just couldn't find at all, or I feel like they weren't really wintry enough or Christmassy enough for the video. Uncle Scoob in Antartica was kind of pushing it for me, but I like the monster, so that's why it's in the video. So let me know what episodes I missed in the comments below, and let me know where you would rank them as well. I have a Patreon. The $5 members get bonus content plus videos a day early, maybe some pictures of my cats, a Discord server, and your name right here on screen. Like the video if you like the video. Thank you for watching the video all the way through. I appreciate you all, and peace.